So I feel that my site is pretty stable right now and I want to deploy it before we move forward. There's a lot of things we can still do with it, but just before we start working with actually database on Firebase, which I'll move into next, we're actually going to try and deploy what we already have just to see it actually running. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to do an ng build right here to kind of build my application. So I'll do an ng build and I'll actually add a -- prod in the end right here. Let's just try and do this. It'll build, just give it a second. But look at this, when it tried to build, it actually failed. But I just ran the application with ng-serve and nothing failed. Well, the build is a bit different than the other one, so let's just try and figure out this error right here that it complains about. It says in the sign up right here, it tries to send in 3 arguments, but it only got 2. Where could that be? Let's just have a look at the HTML. Now, I want you guys to see this because I want you to see some error tracking right here. So I'm looking at line 16, something like that. Try and go up here. Okay, so I have some kind of FC error function, the one we built earlier, and we only pass in 2 pieces of information right here, but notice it can also pass in 3. So something is wrong here. We're probably putting in, we forgot a question mark that explains that is allowed to only put in 2. We just talked about that in models as well. So in this case, if I scroll down here, notice here that I'm actually saying this is needed, and this is needed, but I can just say with the question mark that you do not have to put this in here if you don't want to. So this will work in your local environment when you run this with an ng-serve, but as soon as we try to build it, the builder kind of runs through some even more complex validation just to make sure that everything really will work for production, and that's kind of why I got this error. But let's try and build this again. Remember, the reason for that is to get the dist folder that we can then publish to our Firebase. So it's pretty cool that it gives us these issues when we're trying to build instead of giving us them when we actually put this on Firebase, because it's a lot harder to debug it when it's already up there on the cloud solution. And also, if you guys have some kind of live deployed craziness, the customer would kind of call and yell at you right now because everything would crash because of this exception right here. And all it took was a freaking question mark. So sometimes the exceptions are very, very easy to solve, and other times you'll see some crazy things in here that you'll have to kind of dive a bit more into. But it seems that we have this deployed now, and if I just close and open the application up here, a dist folder is actually available. That means that I can now write Firebase deploy, just like we did in earlier videos, and just fire that command right there, Firebase deploy, and it'll take the dist folder now and it'll ship it onto Firebase. Now the reason that I can do this now is because we actually have this Firebase JSON file, and that knows where to look, which file to ignore, and where to send it, and which changes to actually do on Firebase to make this run. So everything should be working now. Let's try and have a look if we actually have a live deployed version now. So right here you can see a new deployment just happened. Pretty awesome stuff, right? And I can actually switch back to the old one if something went horribly wrong. Let's try and click this and see if it works. But the page is blank, so something is definitely wrong right here. Now, I think the problem is, let's just have a look. If I write login right here, will I go to the right? Yeah, so I see what the problem is. The problem is that the page does actually not know anything about, the page doesn't know default that we need to go to this. So in the blank page right here, I'll just go to a blank page. It doesn't know how to redirect from a blank page to login or albums page. So that's what we're going to fix right now. Jumping into the code right now, the problem seems to be the route. We don't have the route for a blank page, but how do you make something like that? How do you make a route for the root page? Well, jumping into Angular fundamentals, routings, and scrolling down to redirecting routes, you'll see right here, this is how you make such a path. You are putting in the blank path, you're redirecting to where you want to go, and then you're putting in the path match of full. So the last one is pretty much just something you have to do to kind of explain you want to match the entire path right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to albums if the path is blank. I could also go to the login. It wouldn't matter because my guards are taking care of sending me the right place afterwards. Let's just try and see if this actually helps solve my problem right here. So just doing it locally for now, putting in a blank page right here, and there we go, we're at the albums page. Logging out, putting in a blank page, and we're at the login page. Sweet, so it works. Let's deploy this now. And again, it's not a problem. I'll just, the video just gets a bit longer. I'll just start out by doing an ng build prod. So the destination folder is now built. So the next thing I want to do is a Firebase deploy. And it seems it's been deployed to the actual Firebase setup. Let's try and go and see if a new build is here. Yeah, it seems so. Let's just try and click this guy. And there we go. And there we go. It automatically redirects me now to the login page. Let's just try again. There we go. Everything is running. So sweet. Now we have a deployed application. Now there's still some bugs in here. You can go and play around with those and try and figure them out yourself. but now at least you have an application running on Firebase that has most functionality for kind of logging in, logging out, and the basic stuff. I want to keep moving forward. I want to start working with the Firebase database. So that's it for deployment and the current setup with authentication for now. We will look later at some more cool things that we can actually add. But for now, let's end it here. See you next time. Have fun.